Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Finding Your Why in Pursuit of the Quadruple Aim with Robotic-Assisted Surgery. On behalf of Becker's Healthcare, welcome and thank you for joining us. Before we begin, I'm going to walk through a few quick housekeeping instructions. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar, you can type those into the Q&A box you see on your screen. If we don't get to your question today, we will be sure to follow up with you directly after the webinar. You will also find a few engagement tools on your dashboard. Please check out our resources section and also make sure you fill out our session survey. Today's session is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording. Lastly, if at any time you have trouble with the audio or video, please try refreshing your browser. You can also submit any technical questions into the Q&A box, and we are here to help. We are so excited to be joined today by Stephen Mumford, Chief Operating Officer at Baton Rouge General. Mumford joined Baton Rouge General as a nurse in 2005 and has since served in multiple patient care and healthcare management positions, including Director of Perioperative Services, Director of Practice Management at Baton Rouge General Physicians, and Vice President of Clinical Services. As Chief Operating Officer, Stephen oversees the operations of Baton Rouge General Physicians, Baton Rouge Rehabilitation Hospital, as well as business development, physician partnerships, ancillary services, and service departments for BRG. Mumford earned his master's in business education from LSU, and in 2011 earned his Lean Six Sigma Green Belt certification. He is also a member of the Baton Rouge Health District's Shared Services Task Force, the Association of Perioperative Nurses, and the American Hospital Association. Mumford also holds a CNOR certification. We're thrilled to have such an accomplished leader join us today to talk about robotic-assisted surgery and the Quadruple Aim. So without further ado, Stephen, thank you for being here, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you all for having me, and I appreciate you joining me today to talk a little bit about robotic surgery as a service line. Before I do that, I just want to quickly give a high-level overview of Baton Rouge General and kind of what we're all about. So obviously, we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We like to say that we are a one-hospital, three-campus system, but we actually do have three hospitals, and they're all pretty close to each other. They're all within 20 miles of each other. We have a large primary care network consisting of 30 clinics, and we also have 3 urgent cares. Just under 600 licensed beds between our 3 facilities and just south of 4,000 employees in total. We like to say that we are a cradle-to-grave caregiver organization, meaning we care for newborns all the way to end-of-life care. And here's some of our key service lines listed, and it's really your typical, blood service lines for a major health center. But you can also see that robotic surgery is listed there last as one of our biggest and up-and-coming service lines. We are a regional burn center as well and an accredited teaching hospital. We have our own school of nursing and also our own school of radiology. In addition to that, family medicine residency program, an internal medicine residency program, and then a sports medicine fellowship. In 2020, we became a member of the Mayo Clinic Care Network, which has provided huge dividends to us as a health system and to our patients. And then also we have obviously the Advanced Robotics Institute, which we're going to talk about a little bit more today. And we have 7 surgical robots servicing our patients within that institute. So today we have treated almost 7,000 patients since we started our robotic surgery journey back in 2011. But you will see during this presentation that the bulk of these patients have been seen since the year 2020. And the reason for that is from 2011 to 2020, we had a robot, and actually we had multiple robots, but we did not treat robotic surgery as a service line until 2020. And when we started doing that, we started seeing exponential growth, and I'll get more into that in a little bit. So just a little bit about our service line. We have 5 Da Vinci robots. 4 of them are XIs, and then we also have a Da Vinci X at our surgery center here at our Bluebonnet campus. And then we have 2 other robots. One is the Monarch robot for bronchoscopy, and the other is the Mako for total knee and hip replacement. We also have 31 robotic surgeons credentialed here that operate here on the robot, and 7 specialties, but our major 6 are listed here below, with general surgery being our highest volume specialty within the robotics program. And here's just a little data for you guys on our case volumes based on specialty. And you can see starting all the way over on the left is 2011 all the way over to 2020. And you can see where we started our program was really more along the gynecology and the urology service lines, which is really the 2 service lines that the robot originated with. And you can see as time progressed, general surgery, which is the orange column, became much more prevalent. And we had this nice uptick, and you can see in 2020, we took a dip, obviously, like most health systems did. When the pandemic hit, it was very hard to do elective surgery. But you can see in that last quarter of 2020 and leading into 2021, we saw a surge in robotic cases. And that was not by chance. That was because of our efforts and commitment to treat robotics as a service line, just as you would orthopedics or neurosurgery or cardiac surgery. And once we did that and we developed a framework and a structure, we really experienced explosive growth. Just some more data showing our case volumes over the years by system type. So all the green bars going back from 2011 all the way to 2016, 2017 was the Da Vinci SI, which was one of the first gen robots that came out. And the purpose of this slide is to let the audience know that it really is important to standardize your fleet if you're going to have multiple robots. Because if you don't, it's going to be hard to generate consistency with outcomes and your op times and your instrumentation usage, because there are marked differences between the XI robot, which is the latest gen robot, and the SI robot. The arm movements and configurations are different, and it's a big inconvenience for our surgeons to go back and forth on 2 totally different pieces of technology. So you can see where our green bar turned to purple when the XI became more readily available. And then last year in 2021, you see this red bar, which is the Da Vinci X. And we did that because we opened our surgery center on our campus that has an additional 6 operating rooms. And we felt like an X would suffice, and we didn't need an XI for those smaller outpatient type procedures. Here's a slide showing our growth by procedure. And if you look over here on this column on the right where you see percent growth, everything except a couple of procedures, we saw, a really, really nice slope upward over the last 12 months. Mostly in the general surgery realm, so inguinal hernia, ventral hernia, cholecystectomy, and then onto some of the urologic and foregut and bariatrics. But all of these cases, very healthy growth and very nice margins to the bottom line. I put this slide here to let you guys know that it wasn't always this easy, and the data didn't always look good. We had a lot of challenges out of the gate, and these were some of our main issues that we had. And I won't go into detail on all of them right here, but the first one is just that we went off of a lot of anecdotal information instead of using data. And once we started using meaningful data, we really got physician support and buy-in, and we really saw our quality and our volumes begin to improve. We didn't have executive alignment and support for the program. And like I said before, we just didn't treat it as a full service line. And once we did that, we really started to see ourselves move forward. We needed a structure. We needed to meet formally, and we needed to know who our key stakeholders were and make sure that we have all the right people in the room to move our Robotics Institute forward. We didn't have a formal way to communicate, which is why we had to set up committees and start getting together face to face and start talking about the challenges and the opportunities that we had. Competitive pressures, we have 3 major competitors in our marketplace, and 2 of the 3 were way ahead of us as far as robotic surgery is concerned. They had started earlier, they had more surgeons, they had higher volumes, and now that is the inverse. We are leading the way in robotic surgery compared to our competitors, thanks to our efforts. We had some block time issues. We had a lot of blocked time that was causing issues with other doctors trying to get on. So we had to look at that and make some changes. And then there was just this negativity of the mindset toward robotics. Oh, it takes too long, or it costs too much. And so we really wanted to take a deeper dive into that and see what was true about that and what wasn't true about that. And what we found was that neither one of those things were true. And I'll get into more detail about that later. And then obviously recognition as a service line instead of just a technique or a tool that the physicians use. So I took it upon myself as my role as the executive sponsor of this team to not only empower the team, but to remove the barriers that get in the way and try to make sure that everybody is aligned and pulling us in the same direction. And so how we went about doing that was we said, well, let's look at the quadruple aim, because isn't that why we're all here? And I know a lot of you are probably tired of hearing about the quadruple aim over the last few years. You've heard about it probably ad nauseum, but the reality is it does a very good job of keeping us centered and helping us remember why we're here, and that's for the patients. And I will tell you, if you do robotic surgery the way that it's intended to be done and to its potential, you can experience and you will experience all four of these. You will have better outcomes. Your patients will get out of the hospital faster. They'll have fewer complications. They will have a better experience. They'll recover quicker. They'll have less pain. Their incisions will be more aesthetically pleasing than an open procedure incision. And you will lower your total cost of care. And that is something that people, it's been a knock on the robot for years, but if you do it the right way, you actually can lower your cost. And so I'm sure there's people from different parts of the country listening today. I know some of you are still in fee for service like we are here in Louisiana. Some of you are probably in value-based contracting, and some of you are probably in full capitated risk models. I'll tell you, doing robotics as a service line works under any one of those models, because you will lower your total cost of care. So you'll save more on your DRGs or your capitated models, and you will be able to experience some of the shared savings with your metrics that you have with the payers. And then also just a better care team experience. When the staff feels like they're a part of something and that they're building something, everybody's happier and you get their best work, especially in a time where we all know the labor market is just really tough right now. So giving people something that they can be a part of really goes a long way. So we decided, we had to decide where we were going and what our future state was going to look like. So we kind of came up with this mission statement that we're going to send more patients home safer, sooner, more predictably, while retaining more of our health system's resources in an environment that, frankly, everybody thrives in rather than merely survives in. And that includes our nurses, our techs, our physicians, our anesthesia team, and all of our ancillary support staff that help us take care of our patients. So this is a picture of a part of our team, a small part of a much bigger team. Our team continues to grow, but this was when we got our fourth XI robot. So this was a little over a year and a half ago. And the four gentlemen in the background are our surgeons. Three of them general surgeons, one a colorectal surgeon, and they're all extremely aligned. Of course, me in the middle, and then the three ladies standing around me are our robotics coordinator, one of our surge techs, first assist, and then one of our physician assistants that helps us around on our patients. So we needed to define some systematic goals in order to achieve the total programmatic excellence that we wanted. And so these are some of the things that we said, hey, if we're going to do this, these things have to happen. We needed a partnership with all our stakeholders, whether it be doctors, nurses, administrators, referring physicians, whatever it might be. We're going to have to develop, tighter partnerships. We're going to have to support the team and create a psychologically safe culture that they want to work in, meaning, we want them to speak out for safety because we want the highest quality for our patients here. So if you see anything that you're uncomfortable with or that could potentially harm a patient as we move this initiative forward, please speak out and you will be heard, you will be listened to, and we will make meaningful change, based on your feedback. Number three, perhaps the most important of all 8 of these, is validate our data and commit to transparency. Physicians, and there may or may not be any physicians listening, but we know that physicians, they respond very well to objective data. So if you can get good, clean data to the medical staff, they will respond. And if you commit to transparency, it will create a healthy competition that the patient will end up benefiting from in the end, because it's kind of the rising tide lifts all boats scenario. We've definitely seen that here. We want to enhance our patient experience, obviously, and improve their satisfaction, achieve overall operational excellence and lower our total cost of care, obviously part of the quadruple aim. We want to be a case observation site for general surgery, and we've done that And we want to be a robotic site of care and an outpatient center. We did that last year when we opened our outpatient surgery center. And then we want to become a tertiary referral center in the region. And I'm happy to say that we do take care of patients from all of our bordering states and then some down here in the South. So we're very excited about that. So these were some of the key initiatives that we needed to equip and grow our robotic-assisted surgery services. We needed a structure like I talked about. We needed to leverage the resources that Intuitive Surgical offers us beyond just the physical robot itself. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The validation of our metrics and our data. We need task force meetings. We need people on the ground who are executing on the things on the deliverables that we put forward for them. Obviously vertical integration, and then a business development plan to work with through Intuitive Surgical and also our marketing team here at the General. So this was our structure. We knew we needed to build a foundation first, and some of our key stakeholders. I can't emphasize enough the importance of having a surgeon champion. And I would advise that you would even go as far to make it a paid medical directorship, because you're going to be asking this person to develop or devote specific significant time to help you grow your program. And a lot of that time is going to come outside of their normal 40-hour or 50-hour work week, whatever it might be. But if done correctly, it will pay for itself so many times over. I can't emphasize enough, without a surgeon champion, it will be very hard for you to do robotics as a service line. An executive sponsor, you've got to have alignment from the top all the way down to the bedside. So you need C-suite involvement and engagement. I, as the COO, I'm our executive sponsor, and I take this program very seriously, and I'm very proud of it. And then your operational and your tactical leaders usually come from your perioperative leadership team. So either your OR director, your OR manager, or someone within, your perioperative leadership ranks. And then your Intuitive representative, you really leverage this person. He or she can be a huge adjunct to what you're trying to do. They've probably seen this done in other markets, and they can definitely help you move things forward. So our 3 pillars, from the task force all the way up to programmatic excellence, are our executive leadership and our physician-led alignment, our clinical excellence, which is our improved outcomes, and then our operational excellence, lowering our total cost of care. So this is a very busy slide, and I'm actually not going to talk about any of it, but it is all the things that Intuitive offers you besides the physical robot itself. But what I want to underscore with this slide is that Intuitive is not just a vendor. And I've told this story before to other health systems. When we first bought a robot in 2011, we did look at Intuitive as a vendor and not a partner. And I think they looked at us as someone who bought a robot or someone that they sold a robot to. And we've really seen a change in the way Intuitive approaches their customers, probably for the better part of 3 to 5 years now. And Intuitive fully understands that their role is not just to sell you a robot. Their role is to help you turn that robot into a revenue generating machine that provides high quality, low cost care for your patients. And I can tell you through experience with Intuitive that they will go as far as you want them to go, but you've got to put in what you want to get out. And if you lean on Intuitive and use your local rep to be your partner, there's so much that they can do for you beyond sell and deliver a robot to your hospital. So we've kind of talked about most of the things on this slide, so I'll just breeze through this, but this is just defining the difference between your executive team and then your operational task force. Your executive team is really, over here, it consists of people from our C-suite, our medical director of the robotic service line, our perioperative leadership, and then also our robotic team leader. And then our operational task force is the team that meets quarterly, and they operationalize everything that the exec team puts in front of them as far as our goals. And so now that we had created this structure and we had a purpose and everybody was kind of rowing the boat in the same direction, we had to figure out, okay, well, what were we going to do next? And so what we realized was we have to have really good data, and we got to start making decisions based on data instead of anecdotal feedback. So I'm going to go through these next few slides to give you guys an idea of some of the things we focused on and how using meaningful data helped us take better care of our patients. So you can see here and this graph goes from 2018 to 2021. It's showing how robotic-assisted surgery has actually reduced the percentage of open procedures. And the blue line is Da Vinci, and the black line is open. So in 2018, 59% of our procedures were Da Vinci, and 41 were open. And you can see that gap widen over the course of the next 4 years. Fast forward to 2021, we were up to 71% Da Vinci and 29% open, which is obviously a 12% reduction in open surgery. This is a really good slide talking about colorectal surgery, which we know can be an expensive surgery, but can also be a very profitable surgery if done the right way. And so this is showing how we improved our outcomes and reduced our adverse events. So this first column is ICU admissions, and the blue is again Da Vinci, the black is open, and the silver or gray is laparoscopic. And you can see for ICU admissions, the open procedure, 26% of those had to go to the ICU. And we all know what happens when patients have to go to the ICU. They stay longer, it eats up your DRG. The patient has a better chance of getting a hospital-acquired condition like a CAUTI or a CLABSI or pneumonia, as opposed to 2% of our Da Vinci cases need an ICU admit and 7% for laparoscopic. Similar story with blood transfusions. We know every time we give a patient blood, we run the risk of them having a reaction to that. With Da Vinci, only 7% of those colon surgeries got blood, as opposed to 13 for open and 16% laparoscopic. These were cases that were either done Da Vinci or laparoscopic that needed to be converted to open for whatever reason. Only 5% of our robotic cases were, as opposed to 14% of our laparoscopic, and then 0% surgical site infections with robotic and minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery. This is looking at the full impact for colorectal for our key performance indicators. And you can see here, again, blue is Da Vinci, open is black, and gray is laparoscopic. So our median surgery times versus our operating room times, yes, it did take us longer to do our colorectal surgeries on the robot. But you can see here under your median length of stay, 4 days for robotic surgery as opposed to 7 days for open surgery. So in a time where beds are at a premium, the acuity in hospitals is extremely high post-COVID pandemic, I would gladly trade some time in the OR to get 3 bed days back per case, because we constantly have patients waiting in our emergency department for a bed. You can also see that our robotic and laparoscopic colon resections had a lower 30-day readmission rate than our open procedures as well, and a better payer mix too. We noticed in robotics for colon resections that 52% of our patients had commercial insurance, as opposed to 36% for open. So just showing you over here in the pink, the difference in bed days if everybody was robotic as opposed to being open. And then on this next slide, this is looking over at the right, your total reduction in bed days. If you were only to convert, this is our data, half of those cases from open to minimally invasive, because we know that not everybody can be done robotic. There are scenarios and patient issues and comorbid conditions that sometimes cause us to have to do a case open, and we're always going to do what's best for the patient. But even conservatively, if 50% of the cases were converted, that would give you 384 bed days back, which is huge for your hospital throughput and also your bottom line revenue. This is a slide looking at reimbursement trends. A lot of people say, oh, it's more expensive to do robotic surgery. Well, this is some incisional hernia data for Medicare outpatients. So this is just assuming that every patient's Medicare, right? Because we all get paid the same by Medicare. So in 2015, again, the blue line is minimally invasive and the black line is open. In 2015, Medicare paid a little over $5,000 for an incisional hernia repair, minimally invasive. Open, it paid half that, $2,483. And you can see how this blue line is sloping upward nicely all the way to 2021, but it stayed relatively flat on the black line. So now $8,760 for a minimally invasive hernia, as opposed to a little over $3,100 for an open. So just by using a minimally invasive technique, your DRG is going to be higher, not to mention all the other synergies you get with lower lengths of stays, lower readmission rates and surgical site infections that are going to lead to improving your bottom line as well. So this is a contribution margin slide that I wanted to share about ventral hernia. Over here again on the left, yes, our times are a little bit longer when we use the robot compared to open, but look at the difference in what we're getting reimbursed, and our outcomes are actually better for the patient. So just by converting all of our patients from open to minimally invasive, we're more than doubling the bottom line coming into the system. And then on this next slide, looking over on the right, this is assuming, like we did on colorectal, if you only converted 50% of the cases from open to minimally invasive, it would be a gain of about $400,000. So I think you guys are starting to get where we're going with, you can turn this robot into a revenue generating machine instead of just merely a cost center tool that we use. So now that we got to a point in our program where we realized, okay, we're actually improving our margins with the robot, and instead of just increasing our volumes, which we actually did both. But now that we know that we can actually make money at this, should we expand access outside of our normal hours? Meaning, should we offer the robot at night and on the weekends? And this was an exercise that we did that really helped us answer that question. So on the left side is minimally invasive surgery, and on the right side is open. This first column is how much Baton Rouge General, our hospital, spends on minimally invasive colon and small bowel resection cases, which a lot of those things come in on our acute care surgery service, meaning they come in at night and on the weekend. So we were spending, $24,500 on minimally invasive colon surgery, and the national average was actually $28,000. So we were already better than the national average minimally invasive. But when you look at open, we were way worse. We were spending $42,000, and the national average was $34,000. So not only were we not offering patients a minimally invasive better technique, we were actually, it was costing us as well. And we also said, philosophically, just because a patient, has something happen to them at night or on the weekend, that's not their fault, they should still be afforded minimally invasive robotic surgery. If your appendix ruptures on Saturday night, it's not your fault. It's just when it actually happened. So we felt like we should offer all of our patients the same level of technique around the clock. And so that's why we decided to start offering robotics around the clock and training our staff, our nights and weekend staff. This is another slide that just shows another huge cost savings opportunity for us. So this first one is colon resection, and to the right is small bowel resection. And you can see what we were spending open, which are these two black columns, $42,000 and $41,000. And the national average of minimally invasive was $29,000 and $25,000. So just a massive cost savings opportunity for us, while we're actually providing the patient with better care, where they can leave the hospital faster, recover faster, and obviously return to their normal activities of daily living faster. This slide is an example of how doing more robotic surgery helps you get better at it. So it's an example of where volume actually becomes value. So over the last 12 months, we've improved more than 81 minutes in surgery time for our colon resection. So we've knocked off over an hour of our op times with colon surgery. And you can see this first graph is our average robotic surgery minutes, and the second graph is the number of instruments we use, which obviously the more instruments you use, the more expensive the procedure is going to be. So this line coming across, this little gray line, is the median, and the blue line is Baton Rouge General, and then the gray dots are all the other health systems. And so the goal is to be on the line or actually beneath the line. And you can see we are either on the line, just above, or below the line for our surgery minutes. And then same story with the number of instruments, that we use. This next slide is for ventral hernia, and it's showing on average how we save more than 29 minutes of operative time per case. So same exact layout, but you can see we are either on the line or actually below the line for a number of surgery minutes. And then obviously for our instruments, it's the same story there. So just another good example of how doing more, the more you do, the better at it you get. Excuse me. And then the last one is inguinal hernia. Save 17 minutes of surgery time per case, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we all know an inguinal hernia is not a long case. So knocking off 17 minutes is actually a pretty exponential savings. So you can see here where all of our lines are, we're actually, in most instances, below the median, and then right on the median for our number of instruments used. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about innovation within Intuitive and talk about the hub. Some of you may or may not have heard of the hub. It is a very cutting edge new technology that Intuitive offers, and I'm proud to say that we are the first health system in the country to install the hub. I know that several health systems have it now, but what it is it's actually a recording device that attaches to the robot, but it is so much more than just a recording device. It really enhances the amount of collaboration that can happen between the surgeon and the team in the room and then people outside of that room. And what I mean by that is we can now communicate with people that are involved in a patient's care who are not in the operating room in live real time. And I'll give you an example. So we have a IBD specialist here who sends a lot of patients to our colorectal surgeon. So our colorectal surgeon can be doing a robotic procedure on his patient, and he can call him and say, hey, I want you to look at my staple line, or I want you to look at what I'm doing here. And that GI physician can now log into the hub from wherever he is, whether he's on his couch in his clinic or in another state, and he can see exactly what's happening in the case, and he can interact with the surgeon in real time, which is a game changer. We also have started to use this technology at our tumor boards. So our physicians will record their surgeries, and when they go to tumor board, explain to the physicians and their peers what they did in the surgery. But when they can show it to them, it kind of brings it to a whole nother level. And then also there's opportunities to record cases and share them with patients, but obviously without sharing PHI. And it just gives patients that extra sense of security that, hey, my surgeon has done a lot of these. I've actually seen him do one. He or she is more than equipped to take care of me. So this is kind of how it works. You see the hub right here on the left side, and this is the telepresence for the caregiver on the other end. And it's really that simple. All the audio is piped in, all the video is live, and the communication and collaboration is in real time. So now, as a case observation site, we don't necessarily have to bring in a surgeon, from 2 or 3 hours away to watch one of our physicians do a case. We're happy to do that. But if that physician is not, if their time it doesn't allow them to come all the way to Louisiana, they can get on the hub and interact with the surgeon from wherever they are and do a case observation that way. And then finally, the My Intuitive app and then the web. I can't underscore enough how important these two tools are. So the app is really, it's really physician focused. So all of our physicians have access to the My Intuitive app. And when they log in, they can see all of their key performance indicators for them and their patients. So they can see what their consult times are, how long their cases are taking, how many instruments they use, and it's all benchmarked to everybody else. So it's one of those healthy competitions, again, that really makes everybody better and provides better care for our patients. And then the web is kind of for everybody. So I can get on the web and I can look at all of our data, or Connie, our robotic team leader, can do the same thing. And that really helps us get ideas about, hey, what do we want to bring to our next committee, our next steering committee meeting, and talk about with the physicians, and how can we, continuously improve what we're doing for our patients. So in closing, these were some of the program non-negotiables that we came away with. One, we talked about already, identify a surgeon champion. If you do this, it will make it so much easier to accomplish your goals. And if you don't do it, it will make it that much more difficult. Encourage data utilization. Data is the way that you're going to stop all the chatter, all the he said, she said, although no, that didn't happen. If you use good, clean data, physicians will respond to that in a meaningful way. Come up with a task force that where everybody trusts each other, where you have alignment from top to bottom, and everybody is transparent. And then set realistic and attainable goals. Start small and stair step your way into being a full-on robotics institute that's a show site. And demonstrate value by collaborating, be a true partner with each other, and also, like I said before, with Intuitive. You would be amazed at how much Intuitive can help you if you will reciprocate. And then align to what's important to patients, obviously the quadruple aim, which we talked about earlier, which is why we're all here in the first place. So these are some of the things that we continue to do day in and day out here at the General. We're constantly in continuous process improvement mode. So we're looking at how we're doing all the time and constantly trying to get better. So we continue to have our quarterly meetings where we track and review our data and see what we're doing well and what we need to continue to do better. Working with Intuitive, hey, what's the latest and greatest technology like the hub? How can we be on the cutting edge of everything that you guys have to offer? Being a case observation site, which we are now. And then also, new physician training and teaching programs. A lot of physicians are coming right out of fellowship and they've had some exposure to the robot, but they need to know how we do it here. And so getting them involved in our program here early on really makes it a better place for them to work and come take care of their patients. And then administrative and physician alignment. I mean, you really have to have, like I said before, you've got to have alignment all the way from the top down. It's got to be physician-led. The executive team here, myself, our CEO, we're here to remove the barriers that get in the way of physicians doing what they need to do to take care of patients. So they tell us what they need. We support that and give them the resources, and they kind of take care of the rest. And then physician recruitment, focusing on robotics. The more physicians you're able to bring into your organization, whether independent or employed, the better you're going to do with robotic surgery. So with that, I'll kick it back to Beckers to see if there's any questions from the audience.
Stephen, thank you so much for that excellent presentation. We are now going to turn to our audience question and answer session. Attendees, you can submit your questions by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. We will try to get through as many questions as we can. And if we do not address your question today, we will be sure to follow up with you directly after the webinar. So Stephen, let's dive in. The first question we have here is, has robotics helped with surgeon and staff recruitment?
Yeah, it absolutely has. I'll start with surgeon recruitment. So most of the surgeons that are coming out of fellowships, these days, have at least some exposure to robotic surgery. And so if you don't, it's almost like, when you go to interview a surgeon or recruit a surgeon, if you don't offer robotic surgery, that's almost like a prerequisite to them, just like quality would be to a patient. Like they just expect that. So if you don't offer robotic surgery, there's a good chance your competitor or a different market is going to get that surgeon. But I think it's bigger than just offering it, because a lot of these fellows, they're at other high volume robotic programs for their fellowship. So they get exposed to the executive committee and the structure that I spoke to earlier. So if you're able to not only tell them you offer robotic surgery, but that you have a structure and a framework around it, I think that really gets their attention, because some of them have already been exposed to what I just talked about. And so when they're splitting hairs and trying to compare organizations, it could end up being the differentiator from them choosing your organization compared to a different one. And then from a staff standpoint, I think I talked about this a little bit earlier. When the staff feels like they're a part of something and that they're building something and that there's a team involved, it really gives them something to be excited about. So it has helped us recruit. We've also committed to having robotic first assistants. We have 3 to 4 robotic first assists right now. And what it is, it's mostly surgical technicians who have either gone back to school, or we send them back to school to get their first assist certificate. And they really stay in the robot room all day and help assist the surgeons and our nurses and our surge techs take care of our patients. And that's been a great recruiting tool for us as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. The next question here is, how do you justify the capital outlay?
Yeah, so that's the question that every CFO asks, right? These things are expensive. And the reality is, are the robots cheap? No, they're not. But if you're looking to buy a robot, put the robot in your OR and do nothing else and just have it pay for itself quickly, then I would tell you don't buy a robot, because it's not going to work that way. Like I said before, the robot, it can be a revenue producing machine for you, like it has been for us. But it's way bigger than just buying the robot. It's committing to providing an infrastructure that physicians want to work in, staff want to work in, and that patients want to be taken care of in. If you do that, you will see exponential growth in your program, incremental cost savings, and that robot will pay for itself in no time. We're on our 5th robot, and it wasn't just because we wanted more robots. It was because our volumes continue to grow and grow, and our margins continue to increase. It just makes sense to keep adding to our fleet because if we're doing so well. But it wasn't always like that. We really didn't have that kind of result until we really committed to robotics as a service line.
Thank you so much for that great answer. So this next attendee asks, you talked about your total reduction in bed days and length of stay, and we're taking a closer look at our patient satisfaction scores, and I'm wondering, how has that helped with patient satisfaction overall?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because one thing we haven't done, and now I want to do it since that question got asked, is we haven't actually gleaned out our patient sat scores for robotic surgery compared to open and laparoscopic surgery. And it would be really interesting to see if there's actually a delta there. I would think there would be, but I will tell you this, just patient feedback overall has been extremely positive from the patients. I mentioned earlier, patients are up and walking around a lot faster. A lot of surgeries that would have required a patient to stay a day or 2 or 3 are now being done outpatient because we're able to do them with the robot. Incisions are smaller and more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, which is attractive to a lot of people. And people are able to get back to work faster and provide, make a living and provide for their families faster, and all that matters, especially with everything going on right now. So we've received really good feedback, and I think also a sign of patient satisfaction is just growth overall, because in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, word of mouth is a huge thing, and our volumes continue to grow. And I think a lot of that's because our patients are out there kind of spreading the good news. So, but it would be good to measure it. So it's a great question, and we'll definitely dig deeper into our actual patient sat scores around robotics.
Excellent. A great answer. Thank you so much, Stephen. And it looks like we have time for about one more question here, and so we'll close with this one. Stephen, have you been able to use the digital solutions mentioned to help build your brand for outreach?
Yeah, definitely. I talked a little bit about the hub and everything that it can do. I'll give you an example. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, our surgeons were at a primary care practice outside of Baton Rouge. And one of the things they were talking about was, hey, look, if you send us a patient and you're concerned about him or her, and you just want to take a closer look, we can pipe you in from where you are. You don't have to drive into Baton Rouge and come look in the OR. We can pipe you in, and you can see us operating on your patient in real time. Or we can record the surgery and you can review it with your patient after, assuming the patient's agreeable to all of those things. But that's just an example of how we can market ourselves to be a tertiary referral center from physicians that reside outside of our market. The digital age is here, whether people want to embrace it or not. It is, and more, I mean, we've polled our patients. A lot of our patients want to be connected with in a digital way. And this allows us to tell our patients, hey, we're able to collaborate with other caregivers about your case when they don't have to be on campus here. And what that does is it brings more people to the table to help take care of you. And it's very marketable. So yeah, it's helped a lot.
Fantastic. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today, but I want to thank Stephen for that excellent presentation, and also to Intuitive for sponsoring today's webinar. For more information on today's content, please check out the additional resources located on your console. And please don't forget to fill out our webinar survey. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at future Becker's events.